Hello, listeners. Welcome to season 2 of the Masters Decoded podcast. I am Manish Merchant, the chief decoder. I want to thank you for the overwhelming response to season 1. Your feedback and encouragement led me to bring you season 2 of the Masters Decoded. The season will tap into how technology, artificial intelligence, and other socio-economic factors have impacted my guests' careers or passions. Hello, listeners. I'm glad to share with you the fourth episode of our special series on Masters Decoded in partnership with Asian Digital Supermovers, which we conduct every Sunday at 6 p.m. IST or 8:30 a.m. EST on ClubHouse. Our guest on today's podcast is Shubham Jaglan. He's an Indian amateur golfer who won the Junior World Golf Championship in 2015. Jaglan is also a world record holder, 9 under in Classic Junior Open 2012, and is recipient of the NDTV Emerging Player and Margdarshan awards. Jaglan has won over 100 domestic and international tournaments. Today's session is focused on how to go against the wind and all odds. So without much further ado, let me get on with it. Okay, we'll give a couple of minutes. We'll get started. Thank you, Shubham. You're joining in. Where are you right now, Shubham?
I'm currently in Delhi.
Currently
I
in
just
Delhi.
gave up a very interesting Netflix series.
Okay.
That's all I'm doing these days, pretty much.
Which one?
Schools. I'm watching The Blacklist.
Okay. Yeah, it's a one of the great ones, which is there on
Yes,
Netflix
definitely.
for sure.
Yes.
Okay. Great. And apart from, did you go for a round of golf today in the morning for your practice, or did you play a game in the morning? Did you have a tea time today, or was it a rest day?
It was a rest day, pretty much. I had a physiotherapy session in the morning, had a little workout, and then I'm just resting today.
That is interesting. It's great to get in a rest because your body needs one.
Definitely. Especially when you're practicing every day. The weather's really bad these days. It gets very hot. So definitely need the rest.
No, and we'll talk about the golf and my own experience. This was few years ago, 3 years ago, when I was playing. We had a tea time in Bangkok. I'll share some experience around that, what happened to me. But I can very well empathize. Right now, the Delhi weather is not easy. And having a tea time right at 11 and 12 will be grueling for you, for sure.
It's interesting. Whenever I go out on the course, the only people I see are the older members, which is pretty crazy. These guys are like 80, 90 years old, and they're always playing, midday, 12 o'clock, they're out on the course. So there's something about the game, I guess.
Oh, sure. Meaning, I've played couple of times in Bombay, the Bombay Gymkhana Club, and I can tell you the energy which people have. And the best part of golf is it doesn't require any age. Anybody can play. You need to know how to play, otherwise it can cause serious harm to you, for sure. But anybody can play at any age if they've got the physique and if they've got the practice right.
Yeah, exactly. It's also a great way to bond with other people. I guess that's why it's a very famous corporate sport.
Yeah, I'm aware that there are some biggest deals which happen on the golf course for everyone. But you don't play golf for cracking business deals. You play because it's your passion. You play it because you started young. So let's get started, and I'm sure there will be people joining in, and people would love to come in and be part of this show. So hello, everyone. Thank you for joining in. I know we are still waiting for people to come in, but nevertheless, we'll get started. This is the Asian Digital Supermovers Club in partnership with Masters Decoded podcast, which I run personally. And today we have Shubham, who's going to be joining us. Just a little bit background about Shubham. He recently won a Child Prodigy Award in 2020. He's also featured in Satyameva Jayate, Amir Khan show, where as a youngster, how he's been able to overcome all the barriers, all the challenges to pursue his dream in golf. We'll share a little bit about how he got started in golfing, what got him there, and how he's been overcoming everything which has come along his way. There are some amazing and great news, which I'm sure he will be happy to share with many of us. I'm pretty excited about him, about his career, where things are progressing. So, Shubham, welcome. Thank you for taking time out on a rest day for you.
I got disconnected for a moment.
Not a problem, Shubham. Thank you, Pritish, for joining in. Shubham, meet Pritish. He's one of the co-founders of the Asian Digital Supermovers. I'm sure, I don't know if Pritish plays golf, but I'm sure he would love to hear your golfing stories.
Yeah, thanks, Anish. Welcome, Subham. Sorry, I have no experience with golf. I just went to one session, and that was it. And that was actually an event, and it was around golfing. So, but love to hear your story, and congratulations for all the success, and best of luck for the future.
Hi, Pritish. Thank you very much. I really look forward to the talk, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
So, Shubham, for everyone, and I'm sure Pritish would be hearing you for the first time, you want to share a little bit background about what got you started to golfing and how did that journey start? I know you've recited this story many times to many people, to me as well. And you've done this in your Satyameva Jayate show with Amir Khan too. You want to share for everyone who's come in today to listen to you how you got started?
Definitely. So I come from a family of wrestlers. Um, my village is about 20 kilometers west of Panipat, called Israna, and it was choosing golf was not something that any of us had planned. To this day, maybe 5 people know about golf in my village, and that's only through me. So when I was about 6 years old, NRI opened a golf academy just outside my village. His plan was to introduce golf at the grassroots levels, and so my grandfather was the one who enrolled me into that academy. The whole premise of that was, there's a quote unquote new sport in the village, and yeah, it was worth giving it a shot. And if it didn't work out, we could always sort of fall back onto wrestling. The academy shut down in like 2 months, I believe, because earlier they didn't charge a lot of money for the people to come in, but later on, as we all realized how expensive golf can be, all of us naturally backed out. But when the academy was about to shut down, the NRI, Mr. Kapoor Singh, he was in town and he had a chat with my dad. He thought that I had a lot of natural talent and that I should continue playing the sport. So, my father and my family thought about it. None of us knew anything about the sport, but we decided to take his advice, and I'm glad we did. He gave me some hand-me-down clubs initially, a few contacts, so that I could get in touch with people. And the nearest golf course was about 2 hours away, 3 hours away in Karnal, which is where we'd go on the weekends to practice. And otherwise, I'd just, find farming fields. We had a college nearby that had like 100 to 200 yards of open ground where I'd practice golf. And when the academy shut down, the coaches went away as well. So I had to use YouTube or tips from the people I met at the golf club who were not great golfers, but for me starting out, that was all I could get. And yeah, that's how golf was introduced.
And from that humble beginning, Shubham, to you catching a plane to United States to get into a university in Florida to be representing that university starting in 10 days, is that correct? Congratulations, asphalt the beans to everyone. So you are taking a flight on July 22nd, is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. I'll be going to the University of South Florida. It's a Division I golf program, and so I'll be enrolled in the undergraduate program there.
For people who don't know much about the University of South Florida, Do you want to share like who all have come out from playing in the university and specifically this uni as
About
well?
80-90% of the golfers that are on the PGA Tour, which is the most competitive tour out there, have come from Division 1 universities. There are a lot of good universities in Florida. It's a very popular golfing town because of the weather. The world number one, Brooks Koepka, his brother Chase Koepka went to the same university as me. Uh, and a number of PGA Tour players and PGA Tour winners have come out of this university. And a number of really good players like Tiger Woods, who I'm sure if you would know. Phil Mickelson and other great golfers have come out of similar universities, Division 1 programs, and that's my goal as well. I think playing golf in the US in college gives us a very competitive environment, and that's where I think we usually improve the most. So yeah, looking forward to that quite a lot now.
You've shared this with me in the past, uh, Shubham. Correct me, when you started playing golf, your communication skills were also you were finding it difficult to communicate well in English. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And people around you who've coached you have worked with you to ensure that you are able to communicate. How does that feel? Like, you were playing in the fields, playing on concrete patches to practice your putting or practice your swing, to actually going to one of the top universities in the United States to be probably representing the university pretty soon.
It's been a long journey, and I always say this: golf is a individual sport, but to have any sort of success in any aspect of your life, you do need a team of really strong, really good, a good team around you to support you, and that's where I really feel lucky and blessed. I've had some great people that have surrounded me that have given me great advice. So I'm part of the Golf Foundation, which is founded by Mr. Amit Luthra. He's an Arjun awardee himself. And my current coach, Nonita Lal Qureshi, she was a head scout for the foundation a few years back. And so she got to know about me when I was playing some junior events. I was pretty much winning all the events I was playing. So she paid a visit to my village and she talked to my family, and the foundation offered to move us to Delhi so that I could get access to education, but most importantly, golf. And that time was pretty difficult for my family because we didn't really have any guarantees of success at that point. A few junior events that I'd won here and there, but nothing that would guarantee success. So my parents showed a lot of trust and belief in me and my dreams, and decided to relocate here to Delhi. And I've like I said, been blessed to have amazing people around me. Amit sir got me into the Lakshman Public School, where initially I didn't know how to speak English at all, but the principal made sure I got regular English lessons, which were extra classes, and throughout that journey, in about a year or two, I was able to speak and understand English, and now I've given a TED talk, so I guess I've improved.
It's always fascinating to keep hearing you, Shubham. Pritish, before we proceed, should we just quickly reset the room and then we can proceed and ask more fascinating questions to Shubham?
Sure. So thanks everybody who has joined in. We are the Asian Digital Supermovers Club. We that is Mushir, Monica, me, and Anish hold AMAs with who we call OGA, Asian experts, founders, builders, investors, as well as sports personalities such as Shubham, on a weekly basis. And our objective with the club is very simple: is that we bring in really individuals such as Shubham and others for AMAs for an interaction of the body of work, what they have done, and how they've got across. And everybody who's a club member, such as you, who's joined in, to interact with those individuals, share your perspectives, ask any questions. So, just to do that and to be aware of our next AMAs as we build them, do follow the Asian Digital Superbowls Club. Just click on the greenhouse icon on the top and follow the club, and you would also know the future AMAs that are taking place. And then definitely follow the moderators and Shubham, so that when similar conversations happen, you can join in and participate through a notification. So back to you, Anish.
Thank you, Pritesh. And we'll open the hand raising pretty soon for people who would love to interact with Shubham or get to know about his golfing career, which is just getting started, I would put it. But Shubham, you won an Junior World Golf Championship pretty early on, which was in 2015. You've participated on it much before, uh, but you really won the Junior World Golf Championship in 2015. And at that time also there were things which were not in a very structured way where things are today. You having the support and the ecosystem around you. How easy was winning that golf championship which you did in 2015?
Playing in the World Championships was always something that me and my coach had discussed. Firstly, getting the visa was very difficult itself. It was rejected twice. Um, we had to really fight for that. And the foundation again helped me out. We somehow got the visa. And when I played there for the first time, communicating with others and handling the traveling, immigration, all of that was difficult. But when it came to the tournaments, after my first event, I really felt that I wasn't very far off from the level of those golfers. So I just got an extra boost of sort of motivation, knowing that I was on the right path and that I could, if I could improve a little bit, and I could really win, especially on that international stage. So I came back. I was, like I said, winning junior events here in India, but I worked on my game, worked with my coach. I was able to figure out what was lacking in my game, and in 2015, I won the world championship, and I've done that 4 times now. And after that, I started traveling to Europe to play in the European Junior Championship, which I won twice as well.
Shubham, you're just 17 right now, and you still have a lot to come across. And I'm sure you've been asked this question. Uh, you know, you had angels, you had mentors who came your way and were able to guide you. But for people who may not get mentors, who may not get these angels coming their way, how do they go against the wind? How do they fight their way out to make something happen for themselves?
I believe the times that we live in, we're quite lucky because personalization is given great importance. We're coming out of the industrialization age where everything was pretty much moderated. We were supposed to live that 9 to 5 life. But today we have the opportunity where the playing field is much fair. Um, Obviously, there's nothing, we can't make everything fair, but I believe if we can tap into our own passions and what really gives us fulfillment, that we can really start to achieve success. Because I've been lucky enough to be around some successful people. Like I said, golf is a corporate sport, so I've met people from very different backgrounds, people who've had success. I've noticed in my conversations and in my own little success that I've had is, success wasn't something that I would get after achieving a goal. Obviously, I had to learn this over many, many mistakes, but the idea that we think, after getting that job or after completing this project that we'll get happiness or fulfillment is quite flawed, I believe. So going against the wind for me just represents trying to um, strive for fulfillment. And for me, that comes from golf when I'm on the golf course, and not only from practice but mainly from competing. That's what excites me the most, and that's why I've had some people raise questions about me having all these interviews and being in the press. And like I said, I had great mentors, but that never really affected me because at the end of the day, it was still golf. And every day, whether I had to wake up at 5 to travel very early or I had to put in 2 practice sessions, it never really bothered me because I always look forward to it. So finding our passion, finding things that we naturally gravitate towards, and doing that instead of sort of following the cookie cutter mindset is what really brings fulfillment, I believe. And I may be completely wrong, but yeah, that's what I've learned so far.
Shubham, what few things you mentioned, golf is a very interesting game where nobody can call them really, masters. Yes, there are masters who've really excelled in the game. I would use the word excelled rather than achieved bigger heights. There are, you know, better people coming every day and better goals being set every day. And it's an unforgiving game. And when I say that, I've personally experienced it many times. You would feel that you're getting into the game, you knowing what you're doing, and the game can completely turn on you. And you may be having a bad day, bad week, bad month, or bad year. And how do you play that? Because it's not an easy sport. Golf, people may think, okay, it's a stick and it's a ball, how difficult it is to hit. And usually Indians would say, okay, we know how to play cricket. It's easier to play golf as well. What's your perspective on the game itself and what the game has taught
It's
you?
golf, I believe, is arguably the toughest sport out there because we initiate every action. In most of the other sports, cricket, for example, we're reacting to a changing environment. In golf, you initiate everything, which puts a lot of pressure on the person. When we're reacting to things, it's much easier to let go of pressure and just sort of react intuitively. And on top of that, we have all the time to think in the world. And especially in competition, not a lot of positive thoughts come to our mind when we're competing. So having all that extra time, one round lasts about 4 to 5 hours, and we have to initiate everything, and we have a lot of spectators who follow the big events. So that's what really makes it difficult. And I've had days, talking to my fellow friends, professionals, people who I look up to. We can do everything right on a day. We prepare correctly. Our technique is on point. Our mental game is strong. We've prepared well, and things still don't go our way. So that really, I think, puts a lot of pressure on the person because the game is very difficult and it can get away from you very quickly. So, and it can also change in a matter of minutes. Just one conversation, a thought that comes to your mind. I've known people who've struggled for 3, 4 years, and suddenly the game turns around, and the opposite happens as well. So it's a very tricky game. It's very difficult, but it teaches you a lot of lessons related to life as well. I guess that's why we call it the game closest to life.
Before I proceed, Pritish, any thoughts for Shubham, or you want to share or get your perspective?
Yeah, a few actually. Though again, please do keep in mind, golf is not a strength of mine. Um, but a few things, Shubham. I think I have probably a set of questions just for you as an individual, and then other things that I've observed with other players, and I obviously like to get your perspective. One is you are definitely on a fast track, and there is a part of talent, a gift that you have, and obviously your hard work that you put in. that has been recognized, and you're progressing with that, and you're doing well. How do you deal with situations where you haven't done well? Or, as you mentioned, right, this game can really start moving away from you very fast. And if that happens, and you would have been in those situations, how do you deal with that and try to change the sides of the table? Second, I used to, back in the day, work for a company called Accenture. And that time, we had Tiger as our brand ambassador. And then the scandal happened, uh, and he went through that and he came back. What are your views about his second life in the game? Was he different? Was he better? How have you seen that progress happening in somebody who went through that turmoil and has got back to the game? And my third question is, I'm very fascinated by the game whenever I've seen it on television, is that there are usually two golfers going around playing the game, right? There is another person. What kind of a relationship do you hold when you're actually playing with another golfer along with you? I'm sure you get to exchange a lot of conversations, probably what went right, what went wrong. So, how does that pan out? And I know that the person who carries your bag, I'm sorry, I'm not getting the term, I forgot the term.
Caddy.
Caddy, yes, thank you very much. Is somebody who you have a long term relationship, or you work with them and they know a lot about your game. So, can you just highlight on these few
Right. So,
points?
so the first question, you're right. Golf does get away from you very quickly, um, and in those moments, the only thing I've realized is those negative thoughts are very natural. Humans, just as a species, are, we have a negative bias, and that's what's allowed us to survive for these years. And the problem with modern culture is that, sports culture at least, is that we we really hammer down the idea that we have to think positively all the time, which is just not possible. I have a friend, and I had a chat with him, very intellectual person, and the first thing he told me is, if I tell you to not have negative thoughts, the only thing that does is create more negative thoughts. If I tell you not to think of a white elephant, what is the first thing that happens in your mind? You think of a white elephant. So just becoming more aware and accepting the fact that you're doing everything you can and things are still not working out, and that's where a lot of people sort of fall away and sort of give up the game, and that's I've seen that in different aspects of life as well. When you truly don't care about what you're doing, what your profession is, when you don't take pride in that, that's where in such moments you tend to give up very easily. And people blame willpower or being disciplined for that, but I also feel that finding what you really care about or take pride in doing such work also plays a big part in that. So not be lying if I said I didn't think about quitting golf on various occasions. But you always get over that. It's just a phase. You know that the game can get very difficult even when you're doing things right. So it's completely normal to have those thoughts. So yeah, just having a good understanding of the fact that it's normal, everybody has those thoughts, and moving on is, I feel, what's helped me the most. And the second question about Tiger, I think you know he is arguably the greatest example of an athlete we have who's overcome so much, not only on the course but off the course. People don't really change their technique much in golf, especially when they're having success. But this is a guy who changed his coach thrice at the peak of his career and made big adjustments to his game, and still remained, still was very dominant. Although I believe that his first coach, Butch Harmon, the swing that he had, the technique that he had during 2000, around that period, if he still had that coach, I don't think anybody could ever come close to him to this day. But the fact that he did change coaches and did change his technique, And like you mentioned, the scandal. Yeah, so the things off the course, how he was able to manage all of that. I mean, we still don't have a lot of clarity about what actually happened. HBO has a series out on him, and I think they have a bit of a negative sort of outlook on it. There have been a few books by some reporters, I believe, and we don't exactly know what's true, what's not. But the fact that he was able to overcome all of that, plus his injuries, I don't know how many operations he's had, but the fact that he's been able to overcome all of that and he's still able to compete at such a high level to this day is very, very impressive. I mean, the mental toughness that person has is just unbelievable. And the third question, so when we're playing, we usually paired with two or three other people, but in bigger tournaments, it's only like three people in one group. So the caddy, the person who carries our bag, we usually have a more intimate relationship with them, where they really understand our game. But not only that, also how we think, what we like hearing, what we don't like hearing. Every person is different that way. So it's not usually about who's the most qualified, but more importance is usually given to how well the player and the caddy can connect. Jordan Spieth, who is the world number one golfer for a very long time lately. His caddy is a math teacher who was his friend. Didn't know much about golf, but they had a great relationship. Same with Rory McIlroy. He dropped his longtime caddy and his best friend from Ireland, which is his home country. He's the guy who's caddying for him, and they won major championships together. So that relationship is a bit tricky, and skill is not the main sort of requirement, I guess. As far as the other people are concerned in the group, it really depends on how well you gel with them. We always talk about the weather, traveling, the golf course itself, new news about what's happening on the tour. But apart from that, if you're paired with friends, then you have a great time out on the course. But there are certain people that you don't like on the tour, which is, I think, common to every field. But yeah, those people, the round gets a bit difficult. We only talk as much as we need to and sort of focus on our game. Does that cover?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I have follow up questions as well. So, one thing, I'm still hopeful then I can become a caddy, which is great.
Yes.
Uh, Second is, I think you touched upon a great point, and I have followed cricket a lot. Um, and I think what has one thing that I've always thought of is that not there are a lot of athletes in all sports start off training and giving in the hours and do make it to Ranji or to some national level. But then they at some point realize that probably they are not probably going to be at the top of the game, and that not everybody can probably achieve the growth and success that you have, or Sachin Tendulkar has, or Saurav Ganguly has, right? But they do land up playing competitively. So when these kind of failures do happen, or you make mistakes, um, how do you build your self confidence back and saying that I am built for this game and I need to keep playing? Are there any kind of tangible stats you look at, or it's just a personal mental strength and the environment you
I
stay
guess
in?
it comes back to what I was saying earlier. It's only natural that such things will happen at some point, probably very often. But in such moments, it actually gives you a lot of clarity. We all feel bad about things, when they don't go our way. But the thought of just giving it all up completely never has really occurred to me. And for other things like working out or studies, like that thought has come to my mind, and I've acted on that. Be it my final exams coming up, and I just felt there's too much syllabus to cover. I've had moments where I was like, screw it, I'll just see how it goes, and I'm not going to study. Or when I'm working out and I'm really not feeling comfortable and I need to push myself, but I just can't convince myself to do it. And I've had moments where I've given up, but in golf, that thought never really, it comes to my mind, but I've never acted on it. So, I think those moments give you clarity on whether you are on the right path or not. And it's not even about success. I'm sure you'll agree to the fact that there are plenty of successful people who are not at all happy with what they do. And so such moments give us clarity. For me, at least, that's been the case. And I'd love to hear what you think about that.
So I completely agree with you. I think most successful people are not really happy with themselves. Very few, very handful people really realize the gift that they have got, the hard work they have done, and that has repaid them in multiple folds, and they can appreciate it. I think most of us think about whatever we have got is not as much we would have put in. So I think appreciation goes a long way in being in a good mental state, especially when you are really not at the key part of your game. At the same time, whenever you get an extra boost. I think one other part before I hand it back to Anish, you mentioned about um, changing your swing, right? And to my understanding, whatever little I understand about golf, swing is a very key part of the game, and it is key to understand how a golfer like Tiger Woods would definitely. How do you think he would have thought of actually thinking of changing his game or his swing and change it 3 times? Given the risk what that was associated, what would have been in his mind, and if that's something that you would have thought about? And the second is you mentioned, well, now that I have more in-depth understanding about your career, I am rooting, and I'm sure Anis, and everybody else is rooting that you become the world champion, and potentially we have probably an Indian as a world champion. I don't know if there was. I think the Geet Sethi, if I've got it right from my memory, was probably the most prominent Indian origin golfer. If I've got it right, I could be completely wrong.
I think you're talking about Vijay Singh. He's from the Fiji Islands.
Yes.
So he's an Indian origin guy. But apart from that, Jeev Milkha Singh is probably the best Indian golfer that's ever played on the tour. We all know his father, Mr. Milkha Singh, just passed away a few days back. About Tiger, that's why I'm so fascinated by his career and his mindset. Is that when he came out on tour, he was literally dominating the tour. It was the first time that anybody had seen such a talent, and the fact that even then he was not satisfied with where his game was, and that he still felt the need to improve and still believed that he could get even better and was just out looking for ways to get better is what's so amazing. And not just that, but changing his technique and then working so hard at it, because it's very difficult to do. It takes hours and hours of practice, but the most difficult part is to trust it in competition. So for him to have changed his technique at the peak of his career and maintained his form is what the real that's what really amazes me. So yeah, that's exactly why I'm so fascinated by his career.
Thanks, Pritesh. Some amazing questions, and Shubham, some amazing responses. Uh, you know, I'll just share a funny story. I actually have two of them. The second one is not that promising for me, for everyone to hear. But The first one is, we had a company's offsite, and our CEO said, let's go ahead, and we were in Bangkok, and we were staying in a golf resort. So we said it's an amazing 18-hole golf resort. Let's go ahead and book a tea time. So we said okay, and he had coaxed me to get coached. So I did get coached 5 times. I would say I'd gone to a coach, his own coach, in Bombay, and I also did play some games with him and few other colleagues in Bombay. So I was like, okay, I'm confident I can hit the ball. I can and do well. He just said that this resort and this golfing course has many water bodies, and you have to be careful. You don't end up losing many balls, because then it's going to be just because the course is big, and then we'll have to go and keep buying the balls back and again. So I said, yeah, don't worry if that happens, and we're playing for fun, not really. Not really playing it for any money or profession. I'll probably skip it if I'm not confident on those water bodies. So we go ahead and book a tea time. Unfortunately, it was overbooked. So we only got a tea time of like 12 o'clock in the afternoon, and Bangkok weather is unforgiving for sure. Interestingly, in Bangkok, the actual the process is that you need to have a caddy. And we were all young people. When I say young, we were, we used to say, yeah, we can easily walk it out. We don't need the buggies. We have caddies who will be along with us, and these are women, completely dressed from head to down with full sleeves. And we were just wondering, how can they bear the heat? It's so hot, and they're just completely dressed up, and they're going to carry these big golf clubs along, and they would not allow us to carry it along. We were feeling a little awkward to let them carry, but we had to do that. So we said, okay, let's just get over it. After the seventh round, not round, but after the seventh hole, all of us were toasted because of the heat. It was so bad. And eighth round, I just couldn't take it. My shots were all over the place, and I was like, I can't take this. The heat has got into my head. I just walked back to my room, and literally my body was fuming heat out. I had to sit in a bathtub for at least 2 hours, let that heat out of my body. It was that bad. So that is a fun experience which I've had on a golf course. And we had signed up for 18. Imagine, we didn't even survive. And later on, I come to know that my colleagues and even our CEO just ended the game on the 11th one. And on the second one, and we are talking about this, the mental piece, and how do you ensure that negativity is not there. As we were talking, this game can be brutal, and you can really hurt yourself, which people don't realize. I know people have had concussions because the ball has come back and hit their head, and many other things. I literally twisted my ankle, and I have been scared to get back and playing golf, because when I went to a green just to putt balls and just to practice my swing, I didn't have the right mental state to do that. I was, agitated from work and all of that. And I said, okay, I need to go and just get my frustration out. It's not a game that you can get your frustration out. And it really got me and twisted my ankle. And that really hurt me for many, many months. And I have never stepped back to play golfing again because of that. I know, Shubham, if something has like that happened to you where, you've tried to not be in that state, but yeah, or have heard stories that people have hurt themselves because of not being in that right mental or the physical state which they need to.
I remember you told me that story when we did the Masters Decoded podcast. And I don't know if I told you, but when I started out in the academy, so the one that was just outside my village, I was there practicing, and so they laid down mats from where we could hit golf balls. So all the kids were there. There was a person right next to me, and we were hitting balls. So I hit a shot, and I went down to pick up another ball, tee it up, and hit it again. So as I was going down, the person in front of me took a swing back, and his club, the club head, which is of iron, it hit me on the forehead, and I started bleeding immediately. I had to get like 5-6 stitches. I was rushed to the hospital. It wasn't very serious. I mean, I ended up going for practice the next day. But funnily enough, the guy in front of me, his name was Shubham as well. I'm still friends with him to this day.
Very interesting, Shubham. Rohan, Mukesh, you all have been listening patiently. If you want to come up on the stage, raise your hand and we'll get you on. Uh, and want to get your perspectives or get anything answered from Shubham. All right, Rohan, bringing you on.
Yeah, what's the cost required to play golf as a professional or as just as an amateur? And do you get 100% scholarship while studying in the US universities?
The cost for playing amateur golf is not as much as professional golf because when you're professional, the entry fees is much more. You have a caddy, as we mentioned, who travels with you. So for playing in one event, I'd say it costs about 30 to 50,000 if it's outside your state in India, and but it varies a lot. Since I'm in the foundation, most of my costs are covered by the foundation, and I am on the Indian team, so we have had international trips. So like I went to Australia last year, and that was all taken care of by the Indian government. So for professionals, the cost is a bit more, about 50 to 60,000 rupees per event. But professionals get paid for playing. So if they win the event, they end up earning maybe 10 lakh rupees for that event, say in India. And the biggest events, the US Open Championship, which happened about 2-3 weeks back, the winner took home, I believe, 13-14 crore rupees. So, the scale is very big, but talking on the Indian level, that's what the costs are. For university, I will be on 100% scholarship, but that's very rare. And that's not all golf. So, since my grades were very good in school, I will get a partial, about 30% scholarship based on my studies, and then 70% for golf. And getting it to a good university and getting that much scholarship is very difficult, but it's very much possible. If I chose to go to say a mediocre university whose team wasn't very strong, then yeah, getting 100% scholarship is possible, but again, you have to be a good player. Does that answer your question, Rohan?
Yes, yes.
Shubham, what are your thoughts? First few thoughts. I know you've traveled to US, you've traveled internationally, but studying there and being there for many years to come, what are some immediate thoughts and what are those mental preparation which is going on in your
It will
mind?
be the first time that I'm going to be completely by myself. So I'm really looking forward to that freedom. The facilities I'll get, that's something that I'm really looking forward to. Having access to hitting balls or practicing or going out on the golf course whenever you feel like is very exciting. But like I said, the Australian trip, I went with our Indian team manager, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. So I'm really looking forward to the freedom. Now I'm sure I'll have a few lessons on how to cook and how to do laundry, but once I get that out of the way, from what I've heard from my friends and from my mentors, they've all said it's going to be a great learning experience. And the main reason I'm going there is for golf. So there's immense competition, not just in collegiate events, but also within my team. Every team has about 8 or 9 players, and only 4 or 5 of them go to an event. So before every event at my home college, I'll have to compete with others on the team to make it to the event. So that's how competitive it is. I'll have to really earn my spot every time I compete, and I think that's going to be great for my game. Competing and playing games, that's the best way to improve. There's quite a lot of research out on that lately. Where just practicing or just acquiring skills is not enough. You have to consistently and constantly compete with others, preferably people who are better than you. And yeah, that's what I'm really looking forward to. Plus, being in Florida, I think is something exciting, anyways.
Go ahead, Pritesh.
So, Shubham, two questions. Right. One is, I think, what has happened around cricketing in terms of IPL, and this probably is happening with other sports in India as well. Do you think that there is a scope? I'm sure there is a scope for building local franchising kind of a game like IPL for golf. Do you think this is something that could be done in the next few years? Something that one should consider building up for the Indian ecosystem so that more players come up, they get enough funding, make enough revenue just within the Indian ecosystem so that they can inspire other golfers of the future. That's one. Second, that you're as good in your studies as you're at golf. What are some things that you actually learned while golfing or practicing that you actually use while studying or giving your examinations? Are there any things that you are able to reuse in both the fields?
Right. For golf, I think there was an event that was sponsored by Louis Philippe, the clothing brand, and they had a sort of a IPL format where teams from Delhi, Mumbai competed against each other. But I think that's really suited for a team sport. To grow golf in India, I think what we really need are public golf courses, public driving ranges. That's something that we lack. To play golf, you need a membership at a pretty decent golf course to just hit 50, 100 balls. Just to practice, you need to pay about 500, $600, which is not a fair price. And that's where I feel America and other European countries are ahead of us because they have so many public ranges, especially America, which is the hub for golf. Cricket is so famous here in India only because it's so accessible. Every other kid has a bat and a ball, and he can just grab his friends and go play. And if we could make that possible for golf, where a kid could just, have his group of friends out onto a driving range or a golf course and just hire, rent out clubs, rent out a few golf balls and just play around, I think that's what can really help grow the game. And, in terms of learning things from golf and things that I could apply to my life was, I think I briefly touched upon all of these earlier, where just sort of accepting the fact that you're going to have negative thoughts or that you're going to get down on yourself and that bad things are going to happen even when you tried. Just sort of becoming aware of that, I think that's when it sort of loses power. And, it's not very applicable in studies because, when you study well and you work hard for your exam, you usually get good results. But yeah, just knowing that there's a process and deriving happiness and pleasure and fulfillment from that process is the best thing you can do, I believe. Not making happiness or success something that you achieve at a certain point, because what really happens is you think, oh, I'm going to achieve this goal or that I'm going to finish this amazing project and then I'll be happy. And then when you do it, you're back to square one. And then you're like looking for the next thing to do. So instead of that, just finding happiness in whatever you're doing in that process, and just being fulfilled by that whole process is what really is good for you in the long run. I mean, you can fight it out. You can muster your way through a few workouts, through a few exams, through a few months of, hard work at the office, but it's not a long-lasting approach. And that's the same point that we discussed. Like, I know quite a few people who are very successful in their field, but they don't enjoy their work. when they're playing golf and they're cursing at their buddies and just laughing hysterically, that's when they're enjoying themselves. The moment that they realize that they have to get back to work the next day, they're just dreading it. So that's I think we should learn about that. That success is not something that you'll achieve and then happiness comes from it. If that makes sense.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Cool.
So your thoughts, Anis?
No, Shubham, meaning, I don't know, meaning, at this age which you are at, to coach us and mentor us, I would use that word, is just profound. And I know we are almost on an hour, and it doesn't feel like we've completed an hour with you. Meaning, I would love to keep going but I know that you have practice and you have things to do. But I really am sure from Asian Digital Supermovers and all of us, we would love to thank you for your time and coming on and speaking to us. It's been a great conversation. Pratish, I don't know if you have some words to share with Shubham before we close the room.
I think it was a pleasure listening to you, and obviously there's so many learnings there. So at the same time, best of luck. I'm really excited for you going to Florida. I have lived in a hostel. I've loved that experience. I have lived outside as well. So it's going to be an amazing journey. You just need to keep your focus, which you will for sure, and look forward to all your success and reading about you and seeing you in interviews and hopefully someday meet you as well. So best of luck.
Thank you guys. It was a pleasure to come on. I love to talk, and even our last podcast was amazing. Same for myself. I don't know when the hour passed away, so it was completely my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shubham, for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure. And frankly speaking, it's a pleasure to meet somebody representing
Great.
India.
So we will close the room in 10 seconds. Thanks, Shubham. Anis, sorry.
No, that's okay. Pratish, I would just say to Shubham that it's been an absolute pleasure to speak to somebody who's representing India. So Shubham, keep doing what you're doing, and keep the name of India soaring high in everything what
Thank you guys. Appreciate that.
Take care. Have a safe day, and best of luck with your flight on
Thank you.
22nd. Thank you for listening in. And we close yet another episode of Masters Decoded. If you've enjoyed the episode, please, you can help us out by sharing it on social media. I would personally appreciate that. It's how we can reach more listeners, and the more listeners we have, the more awesome guests I can get in touch and convince to participate in these conversations that are a joy to have for me, and I hope they are a joy for you to listen as well. You can also help a lot leaving reviews on iTunes or your podcast service of choice. Reviews are surprisingly helpful in supporting the podcast to get to more listeners. If this episode has intrigued you, I would request you to subscribe to the podcast to stay up to date and get notified to the future episodes. With that, I bid you and see you in the next episode.